This video is designed to help you with the AQA GCSE History exam, and it's based on exam knowledge, essentially how to approach and answer the exam rather than subject knowledge. Now, whilst it's aimed at GCSE level, this has got information that's really going to be useful as well for Key Stage 3, so it's well worth a watch and paying attention to. Now, we're going to look at point, evidence, explain. It's the building block of a good essay. If you can do this, and if you can do this well, the rest of the essay will essentially follow, and you're going to be on course for good marks. The importance of point, evidence, explain really is highlighted when you look at the AQA Guidance for exam markers, and they actually say here, and I'm showing it in front of you, a developed level of reasoning is shown in an answer that makes an accurate and relevant point, and that's brackets P, supporting it with explanation, brackets E, and factual knowledge and evidence, brackets E. So they're telling their examiners, the people that are going to be marking your exam, to look for point, evidence, explain. So if we know that they're looking for it, we've got to make sure we get it right. So how are we going to do that? Well, the way that I describe point, evidence, explain, the best way to look at it is imagine it as a burger. A number of things that are put together to make one meal. So you've got the bread, we've got the cheese, we've got the sauces, we've got the meat, we've got the lettuce. All of this constructed together makes a burger. And a paragraph, very similar. It's a number of things put together to make a paragraph. So we're going to start with the top, and we're going to create our point. And it's going to be an opening point that sums up your argument. It is really important, though, that that relates to the question. You've got to make sure that all the time you're thinking about the question and how does my point help answer this question. Following on from that, we need to start looking at the evidence. Now, it's really important. This evidence has to be relevant. It's the importance of revision at this point, and it's the best evidence that you can use. It has to support the points you have made. If you don't provide this evidence, how's the reader going to believe your argument? So it's important you've done your revision. It's important that you know dates, you know names, you know places. All of this will be evidence to help support your argument and convince the reader, or in this case the examiner, that you know what you're talking about and you can answer this question confidently. And then finally we need to move on to an explanation. We've got to link our answer back to that question. We've got to make sure we show how it connects. Now, it might be obvious to you when you write it down, but you've got to make it obvious to the examiner as well. So be really clear in showing how your answer answers that question, how this paragraph links back to the question that is being asked. Now let's put all of this together then by looking at an example. The question that we're going to imagine is being set is: Hitler's foreign policy was the main cause of the Second World War. How far do you agree with this statement? Explain your answer. So it would have been a 16-mark question. You would have got 4 additional marks for SPAG. And let's have a look at a paragraph that somebody may have written for this, and that's in front of you now. Now, the first thing that I want to highlight to you is the point, and we can see it straight away. It's some historians consider Hitler's foreign policy to be a significant factor in the cause of World War II. It's really clear, it's really simple, and it's quite literally straight to the point. And that's all we need to do. We just need to make sure that the examiner understands what we are talking about here. We then need to move on to the next part, and this is the evidence. So in this case, the student has answered it with 2 examples, and they've talked about overturning the Treaty of Versailles, which was one of Hitler's foreign policy aims. The student could have talked about living space, Lebensraum, or it could have talked about uniting German-speaking peoples and talked about Anschluss. But in this case, they've talked about overturning the Treaty of Versailles, and they've given examples of rearmament, along with Hitler remilitarizing the Rhineland and moving this army back into the Rhineland in March 1936. And hopefully by reading this you can see how the student has given 2 very clear examples of evidence to support the point that they made initially. Now, the last thing they need to do is to link that back to the question. They need to explain how that is relevant. And they've done that here by saying how it's caused international tension and it's resulted in other countries preparing for war because Hitler had grown a larger army. So this is a really clear example of bringing it all together. Appoint, evidence, explain. However, there's a couple of other pieces that we need to consider about this essay. Connectives. Okay, these are going to be the words that glue the sentences together, essentially to help it flow. So just as with a burger, you get cheese, we get sauces, you'll get the garnish and you'll get the lettuce. A paragraph's going to need additional words to help it flow, to help make your argument clear. So I've given you some examples of connectives as well. Now again, they're laid out in point, evidence, explain. One of my own pet hates is when I see students start a paragraph with I think that or I believe that, and then they'll start the next paragraph with I think or I believe. Really try and avoid using this word I. Instead, use words such as some historians or other historians. Giving you some examples for evidence. For example, firstly, secondly, and these are sentence starters to consider when you're writing your evidence part for the paragraph. And then finally, for explanation, some sentence starters to help you finish off that paragraph. So there we have it. Appoint, evidence, explain, paragraph. Quick recap of what it is. Think about the burger next time when you are writing your paragraph. Make sure you've got all three key elements.